Hi, this is Jen Rubin, and this is Jen Rubin's Green Room. We're at the end of another busy week, and in particular, a fascinating week at the Trump trial in Manhattan. This was the Revenge of the Women week. We had both Hope Hicks and Stormy Daniels deliver what I thought was devastating testimony. On Hope Hicks, you had someone who was obviously emotionally conflicted. She cried at one point, I think very sincerely, not for effect, showing that she really felt badly. She had given part of her life to this guy. She was now helping to seal his fate, and she got a bit emotional about it. But she was crucial in making clear that Trump not only was concerned about the election, but later expressed relief that this had not come out before the election, meaning the affair with Stormy Daniels. But really, the highlight of the week was Stormy Daniels' testimony. And not only her testimony, but the cross-examination, which may go down in history as the worst cross-examination in history. What do you want to do on cross-examination? You want to poke holes. You want to tell the jury that there is reason to disbelieve this witness. And instead, what the counsel for Trump did was elicit a feisty, truthful, candid, likable Stormy Daniels that I think the jury probably came away with a better sense of after the cross than before. And one of the things she did was essentially prove that she doesn't think of herself as some kind of angel. She thinks of herself as a former porn star. She was candid about it, but she was funny. She was somewhat irreverent. And I don't think the defense did any favors for their client in really at times being abusive, disrespectful, just out and out trying to paint her as a liar. And there's two reasons for that. One is they are performing for their client, who is increasingly irritated, probably somewhat agitated, and certainly angry that he's not doing better than he thought he would at this trial. And the second reason is that, remember, Trump's entire case and what his attorney said in the opening argument was that Stormy Daniels was a liar and they were going to prove it. So they've made a promise to the jury, and now they're trapped because she was quite candid. And all those details that the defense was complaining about, that they thought was too lurid, well, that really does go to her credibility. She really did have this intercourse with him, and she really did, I think, describe it in enough detail that no one could make this up. So I think she was a very successful witness. And I have to say, at this point in the trial, only one thing I think could derail the prosecution, and that's Michael Cohen. And he's coming up next week. So the stakes could not be higher. On one hand, the prosecution has done a very good job making sure that virtually all of what he's going to testify to has been confirmed by other witnesses. On the other hand, he is vital. He is going to be the one to say that Trump absolutely knew that this was going to be mischaracterized. He absolutely knew this was not for legal services. So he is still a crucial witness. And if he goes off the rails, if he comes across as malicious, as completely unbelievable, Trump's got a shot at least a mistrial. But so far, I think Alvin Bragg has proved the critics wrong. It's a much stronger case than they imagined. The witnesses are much stronger. And I come away from that with several conclusions. First of all, the Southern District of New York, the prosecutors in the federal system, should have prosecuted Trump for many of these same crimes. Why didn't they? Perhaps they put too much faith in the testimony or too much credit and reliance in the testimony of Michael Cohen, whom they thought would not be a good witness. Well, shame on them. There was a lot of other data out there. And secondly, perhaps they were just squeamish. Perhaps they felt that they would be beating up on Trump or that they shouldn't go after Trump for these crimes. But they did not acquit themselves well. Alvin Bragg has. He has clearly prepared a case Each witness has been marched through the documents in some cases, the facts, their observations, and he's put on a very impressive case. So kudos to those prosecutors in the court in New York. Meanwhile, yes, the election is probably not going as Trump had foreseen. It's not just that the trial is interfering with his campaign schedule. Frankly, when he has days off, he's not out campaigning either, because he's either lazy or he's not mentally and emotionally fit for it, or his campaign is so disorganized they can't set these things up, whatever the reason. But that's the least of his problems. What he is coming across in court is not only sleepy, but weak, petulant, sleazy. So this is the image that is being reinforced again and again and again. And remember, Trump's biggest problem is women voters. And I think any woman, or most women, who are watching this, even casually, are reminded of really how abusive, how obnoxious, how distasteful a character Donald Trump really is. So that's the trial that's going on. Meanwhile, events in Israel continue to be quite disturbing, obviously. They are proceeding into Rafah, despite the president's warnings, and Biden has suspended offensive weapons to Israel. Now, many people are quite agitated about this. Why are you abandoning Israel? Why aren't you providing them weapons? Well, first of all, we're not abandoning Israel. We continue to help them arm the Iron Dome. We continue to provide intelligence. We continue to provide international diplomatic support. But we are a nation of laws, and we have made clear to them that they have to proceed in accordance with international law. They've been warned that they are flirting with a humanitarian disaster, worse than the one that they have already produced. And they were told that we're not going to support an invasion of Rafah. This has not come as a surprise to the Israelis. We've been telling them this for weeks and weeks. So when finally Bibi decided to defy the American warnings, President Biden had no choice but to do this. Now, I want to be clear about something. People have said, well, this is so inconsistent. He gave a great speech earlier this week on the Holocaust on October 7, and now he's doing this. These two things are not inconsistent. You can support the Jewish state, as Biden does robustly. You can condemn anti-Semitism, as Biden does robustly, and still say that it is not in the United States' interest to support something that is a humanitarian disaster and has very little military chance of achieving its goals. So I think those people who want him to be either a complete fan of Bibi and support everything he does, or those who want him to entirely abandon Israel are going to be disappointed. Because as usual, Biden threads the needle. This is not a bad thing. He's a centrist. He's a moderate. He looks for progress where he can make it. He's not going to be an extremist. He's not going to put the United States' reputation at risk. And at the same time, he's going to be a loyal ally. So as difficult as this is, I can't think of a way in which an American president could do much better than this. Listen, he doesn't have a magic button to make either Bibi or Hamas do what he wants. So all he can do is apply pressure. He can dispense with the ridiculous rhetoric. He can send Bill Burns, the head of the CIA, who is highly respected on both sides, to negotiate. But at some point, the Israelis have to figure this out for themselves. And right now, they're frankly not achieving what their aim was, which was to eliminate Hamas entirely. I don't know if that's possible at all. And moreover, to create a situation where they don't have future October 7th. They're not endearing themselves to any kind of method that would lead to a permanent or even an expanded period of peace in the Middle East. They have an opportunity now to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia. But they've got to get past this. They've got to get past Bibi. They've got to figure out that if they want to survive as a democratic Jewish state, they have to figure out how to live in some kind of cooperative vein with the Palestinians. So that remains a constant source of aggravation, sorrow, horror, as, of course, those hostages remain in dreadful condition, however many still remain alive. So let's go to the American presidential election. Again, Biden's doing better than expected. If you like polls, and I don't, as you know, they're looking much better. Several polls nationally have Biden up. There's a poll out of Wisconsin, big swing state, that shows Biden up significantly. But more than that, I think you can see the disparity in how these campaigns are being run. Biden has a huge staff. He's up on the air with ads. He is vigorously campaigning, doing multiple stops a day, multiple days of the week. What's Trump doing? Nothing. He's basically coming out to meet the press after his trial days and whining. He does not have staff in swing states. He is not running ads all over. I don't know what he thinks he's doing. But I will say this. For Biden, the longer and the more vigorously he campaigns, the less we hear from the press about the age issue, and the more I think he has an opportunity to lay out the case against Donald Trump, that this guy is a nut, that he's an extremist, and that he's out to deprive Americans of their sacred rights. And that's an effective message for him, and I think it always has been. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. The trial's going well. The campaign is going well. World events are, as always, dispiriting, discouraging. But we have a good president who has a good record and is running a good campaign. So remember, this is an all-hands-on-deck moment for democracy. You got to get out there. You got to vote. You got to volunteer. You got to use your own public square to advocate for democracy. And if you do all that, then I think we're going to make it through this very difficult time. So thank you for joining me. If you like this program and you like our other programs, please tell your friends. They can follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify. Have a good day. Bye-bye.